I'm Jess from Little Biscuit, and I just wanted to put together a little video just to help you with working with fondant when you're making your little biscuit. So hopefully this makes it a little bit easier for you guys. So I'm working with a silicone mat here, but you can certainly just use a clean bench top. It's just my preference to work with a mat here. So what I'm going to do is just give this surface just a little sprinkle of corn flour. So you can either use corn flour or icing sugar, both work the same, so it might just be a matter of what you have in your pantry. So I'm going to just work with just a small bit of fondant for this example. So I'll just pull off the little bit that I'm going to work with, and I'm just going to show you what I do with the fondant that I am not working with at the time. So I've just got a bit of cling wrap, okay, and then I'm just going to wrap that excess up. And then I just always have a Ziploc bag handy. Just pop it in a Ziploc bag, seal it up, and it's just going to make sure that your fondant doesn't dry out while you're not using it. So with the fondant that I'm going to work with, I'm just going to knead it. So I'm just going to knead it until it's just nice and soft and ready for me to work with. So I've just got my fondant here. Okay, I'm just going to pop it on there. Now I've got a roller that actually has guides, so I can roll out to the width that I like. Now I know a lot of you won't have that, so you can certainly just use a wooden rolling pin, but just make sure that you're rolling your fondant out quite thin, because what we don't want to end up with is a big slab of fondant on top of our cookie, because it's just going to throw off the balance of the flavors there. So let's roll this out nice and thin. Okay. So we've got a nice smooth surface to work with there. So what you would do then is just grab your stamp, and you're probably working with a bigger piece of fondant when you are doing yours, but so you would just pop your stamp in, we'll use up your fondant as much as you could with all the stamps. So I'm just, for this example, going to just do the one. So I'll pop it in the middle here. So just apply a bit of pressure there with your stamp. Okay, and then we're just going to pull that off. So now we're left with a beautiful impression from our stamp. And then next I'm just going to go ahead and grab my cookie cutter. So I've just got my cookie cutter here, and I'm just going to place it so the design's in the middle. And I'm just going to give it a little jiggle on my mat there. So just pull away my excess there. Okay, and just got a little bit of flour on the edges there. So I'll just brush that off. Now sometimes you might find you just have like a couple little bit of edging pieces just around there which come off from your cookie cutter. So if you wanted to give it a really nice sharp edge, this is just like a $1 chopping board from Kmart. But you can just pop your fondant cutout on your board and just grab your stamp, your cookie cutter again, and just give it a little brush like that, and just that little rough texture of the board is just going to chop off any little extra edging bits. So if you just want a nice sharp edge. So now that we've got our fondant cut out, what I'm going to do is I've got my baked cookie here, and I've just got some water here, and I've just got a little brush. So I'm just going to flip that over, and I'm just going to brush just a really small amount of water around the edge there. I'm going to stick that on the middle of my cookie. I'm just going to give that a little pat down, and that little bit of water will be more than enough to stick your fondant to your cookie. So there we've got a finished cookie. So I'll just pop that aside, and you would just keep repeating the process until you've decorated all your cookies, and just leave them out just so that the fondant just dries out a little bit. And what we'll do with the excess fondant is don't leave it out too long, because you can just keep using it. So you just keep kneading it and rolling it out as you need. So just make sure you don't leave it off to the side for too long, because you don't want it to dry out, because it becomes a bit difficult to work with and will have a bit of a cracked texture. So make sure if you're not using your fondant, you wrap it up and you pop it away in your bag. So yeah, just keep using it and repeating until you're done. So now you've got your cookies decorated. As I mentioned, it's a good idea just to let them stay out just to dry, and just so that the fondant's nice and firm before you pop them into your cello bags. So pop them in your cello bags that you got in your kit, use your ribbon to tie them off, And then I recommend putting them into like a bigger airtight container if you have one. And that's just going to help keep the cookies a little bit more fresh for a little bit longer. So especially if you're making them a little bit ahead of time for a celebration, it's just going to help preserve your cookies. So that's what I'd recommend with storing your cookies.